keep my heart set upon your voice, knowing that your word, it never comes back void. No weapon will prosper, no enemy triumph. He will not overcome. He can't scale these walls. Injustice will not win. Hell's gates will not prevail. Not on my time. Not on my watch. I am a watchman, and I take my place. As I wait, I will keep the faith. 'Cause I am a watchman, and I stand my ground. But if I never see it, I will stay the course. I will run the race, I will fight the fight, and I will keep the faith. I keep my eyes fixed on you.
On a microphone. Welcome, everybody. Pastor Tim Carscadden here, Christian Center Shreveport, doing our pipeline report today here on the 24th day of February 2025. So glad you've joined me. I'm solo in it today, just by myself. Zach has a new baby, and we have a grandbaby as well. I should show you pictures. I don't have any ready here. But Eliana Joy is her name, and we're so glad to have her. She is such a blessing to us, and we're glad to have her in the earth, another war baby, as we say, and we're welcoming her into the kingdom for times such as this. That's our passion, is to see that, and I hope you are encouraged today by what the Lord's doing in the earth. We have a lot to cover today. There's so much news. I want to start with the word of the Lord. Always, we are in a season of recovery. That's the main thing that we're getting from the Lord. Is it is a time of recovery, recovering all as we go to war, we go to battle. 1 Samuel 30, that's been our passage as we build this message of getting back everything. We're in that 3-year period where the Lord is promising us to recover all, and by 27 we're just believing for an outpouring of His Spirit for that. So welcome. So glad you joined me as I sit here in my studio at my house today, rather than my office, just pouring out for you. And please share this with others. We want to thank everybody, especially that follows our replays as well. We have great audiences that are afterwards that help us continue the message and passing us along. If we say something that you think somebody you know would be interested in, please just pass the link along. Rumble, as well as the YouTube pipeline page. That's the only place we're doing this, because we're still saying some things that are controversial. We put some things on Facebook recently, and they promised that they were not going to censor, but they did censor some things. And so we're still working on that. That's a battle that we're still in the walk through, whether we can trust Facebook with some of the things that we want to talk about on this pipeline report. So we're going to stick to these platforms during this season. Facebook would really help us, so we get a little more traction there. More people are on Facebook than other platforms. But anyway, so that's where we are. So we declare the word of the Lord, which it says after David went to war, the Lord said, do I pursue? And the Lord said, pursue. That's the word over all of us. And then it said David recovered all the Amalekites had taken and rescued. He rescued everything. He said that those things that were missing, nothing was missing. Matter of fact, whether small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything, and they had taken for themselves, and David brought it all back. Let's just declare that God's going to give it all back for America. We want to get everything back that has been stolen in the last 4 years. And then prior to that, even there was things stolen even when President Trump was in his first term. We knew Anthony Fauci stole our freedoms and our rights from the things that he did. and I think unauthorized things that he did. But he did them, and we can't change that now. We're in a place where God wants to move forward. If you've been listening to my podcast, I've been dealing with a lot of these things. I shared a little bit Sunday morning in my congregation about this election, because we started in 2020 praying for the office of president, and we had to pray even through the Biden administration, and we're continuing here. But I shared a dream, several dreams about where we are now. Not what I had, but a prophetess from Africa, a very well-known prophetess as far as her accuracy. And she said the Lord told her in 2019 that God was going to put Trump on the shelf until he got the heart of David, and he would come back when he had the heart of David. And I feel like that's really come to pass. Look, for all of us, that we were all upset what happened in 2020. I was just disgusted at what happened, to be honest with you. But in retrospect, and God knowing the end from the beginning, what are we seeing now? We could have never seen the transformation we're seeing right now from 2020 to 24. It would not have the authority, would not have had the ability to do. You understand, he and all the leaders that we're hiring right now had 4 years of perspective to look at how deep the deep state was, how deep the corruption was, the swamp, whatever you want to call it. And now we're identifying it and trying to deal with it. It's not going to be easy. They're very well entrenched. And just because the policies are changing doesn't mean their ways are changing. Okay. You can change the law, but you can't change the ways of certain people. Okay. You got to understand that. Like the DEI issue, when we look at that. So you have laws, you're doing away with that, and agencies, federal agencies especially. But, in private industry, they can hire whoever they want to hire. And if they want to hire on that basis, they can. I think if it affects American safety and like pilots and things like that, I did have a dream months ago. I saw a DEI pilot crash a plane, and I knew it was dangerous. And they're not that they're horrible people; they're just not qualified to do what they're doing. And when it comes to public safety, you have to have the best people doing the job. And I'm not here to judge what just happened in those plane wrecks. I'm just saying that's what my dream was. I saw this several months ago, and I've been praying into that would be ended. And I pray now the FAA would begin to deal with those issues so we can make sure that that's not a problem anymore. Okay, so let's get into our pipeline today and cover the topics we need to cover. First, we'll always start with Israel. If you saw the news, the hostages that were released this past weekend was pretty sad. They made them kiss Hamas leaders. They paraded them, made mockery of them, put soldiers' uniforms on some of the hostages that were not even in the military. They were just part of that concert when they got kidnapped. It's just horrendous. And then, of course, they finally gave the body back of the Bibas woman, and her babies had already been returned, the bodies. They tried to fake it and send somebody else's body. The forensic experts in Israel caught it. Now Hamas wants that body back because it's probably a Muslim person. But nonetheless, they did get her body back, as sad as that is, because of the brilliance of the Jewish scientists there. But anyway, and they proved that also that they were not bombed like the Hamas said they were, that they were strangled, they were mutilated, beaten by Hamas terrorists. And I want you to get that. I know the AP was kicked out of the White House briefings because they are saying things like, militants in Gaza. They don't call them Hamas terrorists; they call them militants. Things like that. So there's a real issue there. But anyway, so now Israel is going to withhold the 600 plus Palestinians to be released, and this just came out in the. I think this was the Ynet News. It's an appropriate response. U.S. supports Israel's delay of the hostages. The prisoner release, and so we're standing behind that right now. I think that's good. Spokesman says Trump supports Israel's every step it decides to take against Hamas. Remarks follow Israel's decision to delay the release of 620 terrorists over violations of the last hostage handovers. Look, we have to have some leverage here now. I understand this is very tenuous because there's still hostages there. You don't want to do this too long. You just want enough pressure that they start treating them better. And hopefully by this week, the next, I'll shut this link down, but by the end of the week, that we will see more hostages released, and we won't have to worry about this. So America's backing that. I think it's very important for the Trump administration to back them. I put on the Pipeline Facebook page a response by Netanyahu about that, so you can get an update. Just go to our page; it's on there, and you can read that or watch the video where he shares what really happened to the babies and the mother, and how they're being treated in these places. The daylight for the whole. They're beating. They've been shackled. Horrendous things that have occurred there. On and on it goes. That what's going on there. And matter of fact, some of them, I didn't know this, but one of the terrorist organizations released a hostage that's been in hostage for over 11 years. So that's pretty sad. But we are getting them free. Thank goodness for that. But we want to see them all come home, and the pressure has to be put on. So pray for Israel, pray for the Trump administration as we move forward with this, that God would direct this whole thing as we move forward. I think it's very important that they all get free in the midst of all this. Okay, let's talk about what's happening on our forefront here in America and some of the battles that's going on. It just came out last night. This is the news report. I did not a lot of article on it, but if you watch Fox, I think he's on Fox if I remember right. I think he was a Navy SEAL if I remember right. Dan Bongino has been named as an FBI deputy director. I guess this would be under Kash Patel is what it'd be under, and he will be. So this is a guy that is a strong pro-Trump guy, but also a pro-American guy. I think this is a good appointment. And I want to say this for what's going on in all these appointments. I think there's a beauty in this because working in DC, not that I work there all the time, but enough the times that I go there and lobby, and you see the ambition that's in all over the place. And all the people that want these top positions, they all posture themselves. They work in these certain offices. They schmooze. They do everything they can. They placate the leaders that can appoint them. All these different things that happen. And when I'm watching President Trump's appointments of all these people that are being put in, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and RFK and on it goes, Hedgepeth. All the different appointments that are going through and flying through the recommendation and the confirmations. One thing I can say, it's so interesting that these people are some of the most humble people that I think we've ever had in Washington in those top positions. Probably you have to go back long before we were alive to our early forefathers, where those leaders, early congressmen and senators, they didn't get paid to be congressmen and senators. They actually used their own money. So you'd have to go back probably that far to see the humility we're seeing. Now, I'm not saying these people aren't confident in what they do and all, but I've been watching the interviews of everybody that has been hired, and they ask them, what's it like to take your position? And the number one response is, I never thought I'd be doing this. It's like a dream. They can't believe it's happening. Because it wasn't on their radar. This is not something that they desired nor longed for. And that's beautiful. Because in DC, that's just in the swamp. That's just not the way it is. Everybody wants those positions. They posture to get those positions. They have ambitions, selfish ambitions many times for those spots. And these people are just true Americans that love America and love what we're going after. I know they're not perfect and they're going to make mistakes just like we all would. But that is such a beautiful thing. They're real. They're not fake. They're not politicians. They're just real people who want to help our nation get back to what it's called to be and the way God founded our nation to bring liberty and justice for all. That's their passion. And that is such a beautiful picture we've not seen in so long. Even in President Trump's first term, you still had politicians. And again, has admitted that he didn't understand the culture of DC, and he was hiring what would be normal people who had been in the government for a long time and should have known what to do, but he didn't realize that they all had agendas and ideologies that were not his and that of the American people. I think that's important. He was elected to carry out that. I put up a post about how Stephen Miller at the White House briefing shared the Constitution and the way it works. When you elect a president, an agenda, he has a responsibility to carry that agenda out, and that's what he's doing. Even a Democratic congressman I watched on one of the shows this weekend, and he said, "Look, he's doing what he said he's going to do. We got to stop screaming at him. This is what he was elected to do, and he's doing it." He said, "We just need to focus on what he's not doing. What he said he'd do and he's not doing." And he brought up the economy. I mean, guy's been in 1 month and he said, "You're supposed to turn the economy around." Please. We've had 4 years of the worst economy management we've ever seen. And the Democrats want him to turn it around in 1 month, and then they're going to dog him for not doing that. It's going to take a while, but he's on his way to do that. So that part is exciting. Pray for these leaders. Pray for that humility to remain upon them. And pray that the agendas that are hidden, that they would be revealed and that they would be able to deal with these issues. Now, having said that, it's very important of what is happening right now that you pray into this. Look, there are people we call moles, or you call people that just go into the woodwork. And they're going to talk that we stand with Trump and we stand with the agenda of the American people, but inside they're not. They're kind of melting. It's like some of the DEI people that were hired. They've changed their names and gone back to a normal name and just melted back into the government agencies because they don't want to be found out because he's put policies out against that. So there's ways that they can do that. And so there are going to have to be unique ways that you find this out. And I think one of the guys who's going to find these out is Elon Musk. I know he's very controversial, and I have some real fears about all that. But the fact is, he knows how to do all this, and he did it at X, and that's what you got to find out. So this weekend, he's asked everybody to send all the agencies to send in an email, tell them what they've accomplished in the last week. Now that sounds ridiculous. Sometimes you have a busy week, sometimes you don't, or sometimes you didn't finish your projects, whatever. So it kind of a ridiculous, it seems to be, request, but he has he did this at X. It's just as a replay, and he did this before. And what he's doing, he's trying to find out if there's people that aren't even alive that are on the rolls, that are getting paychecks, people that aren't even reading their emails, who aren't even showing up for work and getting paychecks. And so what he's doing, he's trying to get a response back to find out who's actually working. It's not that he's going to fire anybody. He may, who knows? Or I don't know if he has authority anyway, but he's trying to find out who's who in the zoo. Also, another thing that's happened, it's already happened. You're starting to see department heads within these departments telling their people, don't answer these emails. Boom. You mark these people. Okay, these are people, when told what to do, will fight against what they're being told. So now they're identifying themselves. They're little red markers. Boop, boop. I'm one of them. I'm one of them that's not going to obey what I'm told to do. I'm going to have my own agenda. So you're going to get to mark them. So I don't think it's really about getting the response. He did this at X. So if we're going to look at his history, and he was able to fire a lot of people and get a lot of people off the payroll at X because they weren't even there. And so that's part of his the madness of what he's doing. It's brilliant. How else are you going to find these people? They're steeped in these agencies. They've been in there. Many of them are career people that have been in there. And with all the people not showing up for work, you don't know who's doing the work. And so now I know that Monday, many of them are going to have to come back to the offices. Kash Patel, I thought was interesting, is going to send many of the FBI agents to Huntsville, Alabama, which is a place where they do a lot of military. I know the military colleges there, the war colleges there, and so forth. It's a very important governmental city. And I say, amen. Get them out of D.C. Get them back out in the field. Get them out where the Americans are and what they're going through. He's going to do that. And hey, Huntsville, God bless you. You just got 500 new salaries in your community. Boom. That's some money. tax base for your city and get it out of Washington. Let's quit financing Washington, D.C., which only takes the money and corrupts it, that mayor there and the council in Washington. And let's go give it to other states in America. Let's bless. They're going to get paid anyway. Let's spread out the cash base, and it's going to start happening all over the country. All right. That's one topic I wanted to cover. Well, with the DOGE, and I want to say this about let me cover one other topic. U.S. aid. This is a big one. You're watching. We've been watching for a while. Well, as of midnight last night, here's the news. USA bloodbath as Trump fires 2,000 workers. Did you hear that? 2,000 workers. Let me pull this article up here for you. From USAID, and I think this is an important one, or they're put on leave. Trump administration continued bloodbath, getting the U.S. Agency for International Development, cutting 2,000 workers and placing all but a fraction of its staffers on leave. It comes as a judge Friday allowed the administration to move forward, pulling thousands of domestic USAID workers off the job and around the world. And these workers get to come home. I think they're gonna keep 300 of them out of that. There are some good things that USAID does. A few little bitty things, but they do. And I think they need to keep doing. They help farmers. They do things. Here's some pictures of the people, the gallery here, crying and taking their boxes home. And I'm not here to judge these people, and I hate that anybody loses their job. But the fact is, as he says here at CPAC, he said this.
And construction, so constructions.
Well, I messed that up. He said this at CPAC about this agency. I think it's a dangerous agency in many ways because as we watch this thing play out. Here, I'll shut this off now. I lost the video I was looking for. But as we watch this, in some of the pictures and videos, when Israel invaded Hezbollah in Lebanon, they would go in there and they'd find UN stickers on the wall, and they'd find USAID stickers on the wall. Okay. We know they gave one rapper in Gaza $3 million to write raps, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic raps. On and on it goes. The money's the Sesame Street thing that was happening in Iraq. All these different things they did, the trans drag shows in Colombia, on and on. There's so many of them. And USAID was providing the funding for this. It's over. The gravy train's over. And now we need to, if we use USAID, they'll probably absorb it in some other department, but it needs to be done for good things that would positively help society get back what's been lost, to bring back moral values, things like that. So that's what's going to happen there. So this is a major bloodbath, and these people are screaming. And I want to say this to you: when you start cutting these things, and watch who screams, it's going to be a real insight. If you watch Shimp, senator from California, attack Kash Patel, how incompetent, well, because Kash has a lot of information about Shimp and the illegal things that he did, the promoting of the Russian hoax and all those different things. Look, he's going to scream. He's trying to downplay and speak against the person that will uncover his stuff. So that's what's going on in D.C. We've got to pray that for Kash and for all these leaders, that they would have wisdom on how to deal with this. They do have to make sure they abide by the Constitution. That's what our prayer. Look, we cannot desire revenge. We must want justice, true justice, and that is why on this pipeline report we vet these topics and we talk about them, and we want to engage you in prayer and to be a part. This is part of the battle that we're in when we're fighting for this. Now, on the issue of just some of these people just fighting everything that Trump's doing, we know that's going on. And Pam Bondi is really standing up. If you saw recently, Illinois governor stood up against and said they weren't going to abide the law, especially with the illegal aliens. They were not going to help. Well, okay, you're going to do that? Well, here's what Pam Bondi had to say about that. I thought it was a great response. Here's
When
her
they say they're
response
tough
to
and they
that.
have grit, really, they're protecting illegal aliens over American citizens. Not going to happen under Donald Trump's administration. We will find illegal aliens and we will deport them in Illinois, in New York, and in other states. And you better comply with federal law or you're going to be next. We've spoken loud and clear. We are sick and tired of Americans being murdered, and these states protect.
Okay, so there you go. That's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing the protection of the illegals, especially those that are committing crimes. Some of these people are receiving up to $7,000 a month. Okay. It's a lot of cash. Now, we are $36 trillion in debt. Trillion. Now, recently, well, this past week, an idea was floated that there'd be a savings from the DOGE movement of 20% of the savings was going to come to us as American taxpayers, $5,000 for each household. I'll take it. How about you? Okay. The left is screaming, oh, no, that needs to be put toward the debt. But we heard crickets out of them, silence when they were getting, aliens were getting $7,000 a month. When we just like recently, $59 million to New York City for ritzy hotels for illegals, while the people recovering from the hurricane in North Carolina in the winter are still sleeping in tents. Okay. You don't hear them screaming about that, but all of a sudden now they want physical responsibility. They want us to pay down the debt. They want all the waste uncovered and all this, but apply the debt. Don't give it back to the American people. Yet while all this other money was flying everywhere, they said nothing, zero. The left did. And matter of fact, this weekend, if you saw Joy, who is probably probably puts out more misinformation, more lies out there than anybody, has been fired from MSNBC. I would say people are crying over it, but nobody watched the show anyway, so there's not really many tears going on, other than the little echo chambers of the left who are upset that their queen is being pulled down. So it's this little, I must be having like a home gathering, all upset about it, because that's about the only people that watch it. I jest. But you understand, it's I think it's the lowest rating show they had on MSNBC. They only poll, or they only have thousands of people viewing, where like Fox got millions. So it's a big difference in their viewership. But she's gone. See ya. She's gone. And now we're at a place where they're going to try to replace it. They'll try to put the same thing in there. But this is where I think that what we call the Trump effect is occurring all around the world. But and I say that especially, we'll talk about that in here a little bit. But let's go back to the DOGE issue. And I want to say this. Let me play a couple funny things. Can I do that for you? A couple of funny things about DOGE. I found this on YouTube, this guy, where he talks about what happens when they make all these changes. Let me shift this up here. Okay.
I want you to know it's over.
Well, bye.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Donald Trump promised 10 years ago that we would all get sick of winning and we'd scream, we can't take it any longer. There's too much winning. No, we have to win more. And every single day, Donald Trump makes good on that promise. President Trump predicting the future once again. Just 24 hours ago, President Trump posted this on Truth Social. MSNBC, commonly known as MSNBC, is a threat to our democracy. Such lying and misrepresentation. Bad people at the top. And ladies and gentlemen, seconds later, MSNBC canceled its single most controversial, lowest IQ, dumbest, and lowest rated show, Joy Reid. The Readout has been canceled. MSNBC cancels officially Joy Reid's lefty show as the network makes major shakeup. Oh, yeah, you're going to love this. Wait till you hear who they replaced her with. Somebody lovingly known as the Race Lady by Tucker Carlson.
So they're going to do that. That's funny, I thought. But here's one. I have one more, and I just love these memes that they're popping up on Facebook concerning DOGE. And here's a good one. I shared the one last week. This is even better if you ask me. Let me pull this one up about losing his job. You'll like this.
Trump, I just lost my job. Yeah. In fact, my entire department just lost their jobs. I was one of the head research analysts in charge of discovering how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. But according to our government, that answer doesn't matter anymore. I mean, all those years, all that research, it's just gone. And you know the craziest part is now the world may never know the answer to how much wood could a woodchuck chuck.
I thought that was hilarious. And, you know, they jest, it's satire, but there's a level of truth to that, isn't it? Some of the things that they were studying, trans with animals, they've been doing that. Fauci was a big part of that. Millions and millions and millions of dollars were used for that. And now it's ending. Thank God. Look, God is going to look down favorably on our nation because we are stewards of our resources. God has blessed this nation with wealth, one of the wealthiest countries in the world. And we have a responsibility to do that. And I think that God is really raising up people that really want to be responsible there. Now, I'm going to give you a dream I had this weekend, past weekend, about DOGE. And I think it's really important. Whatever you think of DOGE, this is really interesting. So in my dream, I'm talking to a bunch of people, mainly men, I remember. And we were on the streets, I think like in the Bronx or somewhere. I think that's where I was, in the Bronx. And at different, there was blacks, there was Hispanics, there was Puerto Ricans, all different nationalities were there. Because that's what really the Bronx has. That's probably why I was in the dream that way. And we were all just standing around. And so this guy comes up to me. I think he looked Hispanic of some type. And he was trying to peddle me this 3-wheel dolly thing. It was broken and I wasn't going to buy it. But he felt, because he was a liberal Democrat, that I should help him out because, you know, he was a minority and I should buy this, not because it's any good, but because he is entitled to be compensated because of his ethnic background and all that he'd been through. And I wasn't going to buy it. And I looked at the wheels on it and they were all wobbly. They didn't go. And I heard that phrase, you know, the bus on the wheels go round and round. And we played the little meme last week of the guy who lost his job because that was his job to find out what makes the bus on the wheels go round and round. And he lost his job in a joke. All right. And so in this gathering, we're on the streets. I just tell him that joke. I said, you know, I tell him about what I saw, the meme, and the guy lost his job, and because he couldn't figure out what caused the bus on the wheels to go round and round like these wheels here. And when I did, all these people, especially these men, just started busting out laughing. They just started really laughing. And then they all started telling stories about DOGE and how DOGE was uncovering and how they were upset that the federal government had wasted all this money and had done all these evil things. And here's what happened in the dream. We all, even though we had different ethnic backgrounds, political backgrounds, we all unified under what DOGE is doing. And we all realized we weren't faking. The left has not faked anybody out. They knew this all along anyway, the left did. And these people on the streets knew it was happening all the time anyway. But now it's a unifying force. And I want you to get this. So I believe that God's using Doge beyond. I'm not saying he's doing everything right. It's crazy what stuff he's doing. But I believe God's using it to unify America. And you're starting to see people on the left come around. And you go, you know, that's wrong that we gave Sesame Street to Iraq. That's wrong that we helped in all these other places pay a rap singer $3 million. You know, and now the reality of what's going on, whether we clean it up or not, it is rallying Americans to be one, at least on that issue. And we broke down all the barriers, ethnic backgrounds, political backgrounds in my dream. And it was a fun dream. I woke up laughing. I think I was just having a good time with it. I think the Lord would just give me kind of insight. All right. Now, having said that, I'm going to cover one more thing here. This was an interview on CNN about the $5,000 that DOGE wants to give back to us. Now, this is very interesting because this guy on CNN interviews the guy who he came up with the idea about DOGE. And watch this interview. I'm going to play the whole thing, but it's really interesting what he says here on the prophetic of it. Here we go. Let me pull this up. Let me get a larger screen.
To answer some of these questions, then James Fishback, the CEO of Azoria, the originator of the DOGE dividend. James, thank you for being here. How did this all come to pass?
The DOGE dividend is the idea that we get $5,000 back. Okay, so I want you to listen to this real quickly, what he says here.
Well, good morning, Michael. To tell you the truth, it came to me in a dream. I woke up, I called our head of research at Azoria. We met at Capitol Grill. We fleshed this thing out in 2 hours. And
he had this is on national television, CNN. They don't really tell prophetic dreams very often, but they had to today.
I'm honored that the president has endorsed it. This is a real plan to send the savings that DOGE generates over the next couple of years right back into the pockets of hardworking Americans all across this country. They deserve it. It was their money in the first place, and they need a break.
Okay, I'm all for ridding the government of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Okay, there he is. This is a CNN commentator. Waste, everything, abuse. Now, as I said earlier, when they were giving money to illegals and all the money to Michigan and California and New York, nothing. This guy was saying nothing. But all of a sudden, he's concerned.
But at some level, isn't it all illusory? In other words, if there's a quote-unquote savings made by Elon Musk and DOGE, we're still 36 trillion. So there's no pie to cut up. There's no slice of the pizza that I can hand back to you unless we continue to borrow those funds.
Our plan's really simple. Over the next couple of years, DOGE will save a set amount of money. We're going to take 20% of that and put it right back in the hands of taxpayers. The other 80, as President Trump has pointed out, will go back to paying down the debt and narrowing the deficit. Here's the truth, Michael. For every $5 that DOGE saves, as we believe calculated by the Congressional Budget Office, when this whole project is said and done next summer, for every $5, $1 goes back to the pockets of American taxpayers. Here's why. They sent their money to D.C. to be spent in America, not to be abused, not to be disrespected, and not to be defrauded. That $20 million to Iraqi Sesame Street, that money sent for a transgender opera in Colombia, all at the same time, Michael, that we have roads and bridges crumbling. We're losing 900 Americans every day to deaths of despair, alcoholism, and suicide. 8 out of 10 black American fourth graders are not even reading at grade level. This is pathetic. The Americans sent their money to be spent in America. They now deserve restitution. And the second point that President Trump, just one sec, Michael, the second point that President Trump brought up on Air Force One is that these DOGE dividends will incentivize Americans to report waste, fraud, and abuse in their own community. Why? Why? Because the more that DOGE saves, the bigger their DOGE dividend check will be. Remember, in economics, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. We're giving every American...
I'm going to get to the economics.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this dude laid it out, didn't he? He laid it out in a good way. And what we're looking at here, where he talks about why we're going to give them money, man. And the guy's going to start screaming. I'll play a little bit more. about the 36 trillion, and he's got a legitimate point. Okay, first of all, when you give people $5,000 in America, what do you think they're going to do with the 5,000? I don't know what percent of people are going to pay off bills. They're going to spend the money. They're going to spend it. There'll be a few that go put it in savings, invest it, do something else, but most people are going to spend it. So what's going to happen? The economy, it's a stimulus for the economy. You're pushing it. So in a sense, you're going to generate income, which is going to increase federal taxes, revenues. So we'll get the money back. It's like buying a good stock that's going to have a good return. Now this guy doesn't get that because he doesn't want Trump to be able to do this. That's what his issue is. I want you to hear the full thing and what he says.
I gave you a chance for a great sound bite. You got and those soft power exercises make for great sound bites, but when you drill down, for example, on Sesame Street in Iraq, they often make sense. Joseph Nye from Harvard, who gets credited with the coinage of the word soft power, you'd rather spend on that than bullets. But wait, you want to talk about
there was a terrorist attack in Iraq.
He is justifying Sesame Street in Iraq. Oy vey, as we say in Hebrew. This guy responds properly.
Last month that killed 40 people. It's clearly not working. Soft power and Sesame Street are not working. If there are terrorists, we need to kill the terrorists. We don't need to fund Big Bird and Elmo.
Maybe the terrorist would have been better off watching Big Bird than learning in a madrasa. Let me make my point. Put on the screen from the Peterson Foundation.
So he goes off into 36 trillion. Now he's got a point. I mean, we do owe a lot of money, and the guest goes on. Finally, he gives him the last few seconds here.
This is where the rubber. I have a very simple premise here: fraud, as much as brand, as if we're borrowing it, fashion. But let's at least be honest with the American people that whatever we quote unquote save, we already owe. Now I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond, and then I'm going to say, see you later. Go ahead.
Michael, let me say this. We're fellow Americans. We care about this issue, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on this program, but I got to speak truth here. At the end of the day, we have got to send the money back that is saved, just 20% of it. The other 80% goes down to paying the national debt and narrowing the deficit. To your point, yes, there has been a fraud against the American people, the Green New scam, Ukraine, the migrant crisis. Their taxpayer dollars were sent abroad, were not sent at home, were not spent in America, not on healthcare, not on education. That ends with President Trump's leadership today. He is delivering on his promise of major government reform, Michael.
So he cuts him off, and of course, he has right to. It's his show. But I think the guy makes a valid point. And I hear both sides of the argument, but the fact is, I think rationally it's better to do what they're going to do. Not just because I want $5,000 and I want you to have it, but I think you're telling the people, like you said, it incentivizes them to report abuse. Everybody's been seeing this abuse. They just don't say anything. They just think it's an endless supply that the government has. If we don't knock this deficit down soon, we're going to be paying just interest all the time, and this country will fail. This probably is the greatest existential threat we have is our debt. Now, fortunately, I say fortunately, around the world, everybody's in this situation, so it's not like we're by ourselves, and so I don't know how that all plays out worldwide. It could trigger a whole depression. I don't know. If you listen to my podcast today, I had a word last Wednesday night where I heard this, the bottom is about to drop out, but we will be the head and not the tail. And I gave a whole explanation. I'll do it today and tomorrow. You can listen to my podcast about it. Go to Christian Center Shreveport on your podcast apps, whether it be Podbeam, Apple, Spotify, whatever one you listen to, whatever those are that you like, and go listen to it. Because I laid that out about that word that I had. And here we are at a moment in time where we need the Lord to revive our nation. And this will be a blessing on the people. Look, it's better to give than to receive. So when we sow into the people and the savings, I believe it speaks volumes in the spirit realm. I believe it's a seed offering. into the American people that we are sorry. We're saying to the American people, we're sorry that our government did this to you, that misused your funds, misused your tax money, and we want to bless you back. I really think that's what it's saying in the spirit. So I want to agree with that. The guy had a dream to do this, and that's where the idea came from. I believe it was inspired. I believe it was inspired by the Lord, if you ask me. That's my opinion. And so now let's believe for 5,000 grace all the way across the land. And he's got to save it. I think Elon said that he has to save 2 trillion before that happens. But, you know, we'll see if that can all occur. There may be a year from now, whenever that happens. Okay. They sent us all stimulus checks, right? In COVID. And now we're finding out a lot of those COVID funds weren't used for COVID issues. They were used for whatever they wanted. Okay. That happened in our own city here. We didn't use the funds, and our mayor at that time, not the one we have now, used the funds to buy properties. That's not COVID. You understand? Anyway, I digress. Okay, as I close today, for my friends in Germany, that some may watch this, they had elections Sunday, and we prayed while we were there and encouraged the body of Christ to believe for transformation. They have a far left-leaning government, and I'm not talking about just left. I'm talking about when you go left, you turn another left, and you find them. And they lost drastically in the election yesterday. The moderates and the right conservatives were actually the winners yesterday. This was reported out of The Guardian. As you can see there, let me pull up so you can see it better. This is on this article here. Election results has happened, and so what happened here is that the final results, the Friedrich Merz, he's an alliance, which is the middle of the road, and then the AFD, which is considered the right wing, got 28.5, and then 20.8, and then the left 16 and 11 respectively. And so what does this mean? I know it's a parliamentary system for us Americans. We don't really always understand that. But it's a different system. You have to create a coalition for an army. I mean, to get a majority, like 50%. So now the middle, the right conservative, right wing, they call it. This middle one that just won said they're not going to go with him because they, quote, have some Nazis in their midst. Now, this is the same thing they did to Trump the first time. They called him a Nazi. It's what Russia did to Ukraine, Nazis. It's a term they just throw out, and they have no evidence many times. And I talked to a lot of my German friends while I was there, and they were concerned about that this party does have some segments of it that are extreme in that area. I said, but I asked them, is there any proof that they are Nazis? And, you know, my friends were looking, but they couldn't actually come up with substance for that. They would just had heard, and they heard it, and this is what happens. The left throws those narratives out there, and you just believe them. And yet we don't have concrete evidence. And so I celebrate what happened in Germany. And for my friends there, we're praying for you guys. We're praying that God would really help this government shift. It was funny because when you looked at the map of what it looked like, now I need to pull this up real quickly so you could see this, because this is very important. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Can you see that? Yeah, hold on. Let me share the screen here. If you can see it, I don't think I can. I don't think I can pull it up. But nonetheless, in this map, what we see is that when they counted the vote that happened in Germany, Eastern Germany voted for the conservatives, and Western Germany voted for the liberals, climate people, all that. Now think about that. Eastern Germany is the ones that were in communism, who were oppressed and beat down. And they're the ones that are voting for the change and to see conservatism and moral values come back to their land, freedom of speech. Because what they have found is that they're, especially the older generation, that the state of the government of Germany is falling right back to where they were when they were under Soviet rule. And so now there's a major shift in that side of the country. And they're saying, no, we want our freedom. We fought for that Berlin Wall to fall, and we don't want it to be rebuilt again and us be subject to that. As you saw some of the interviews of the German commentators, they asked them, if you put a negative post online against a liberal policy, do you deserve to be arrested? And they said, absolutely. You saw this recently in England, where an older woman was silently standing outside an abortion clinic, doing nothing but standing there, and was arrested, not saying a word. But they asked, and I watched the interview of the cop who interviewed her, were you in your mind praying against this abortion clinic? Literally, and they were going to arrest her on that. So Europe, wake up. And I believe this is the first awakening, because I think Germany is called to lead Europe. It's an apostolic nation, and I believe if it can change there, it can change everywhere in Europe. Let's believe for transformation, awakening in Europe back to biblical standards, biblical worldview of their governments like they once had. The great nation of Germany that once had biblical worldview and everything that it did, that it would get back to that. The nation of Reformation would be another nation of Reformation again. Let's decree that. Okay. All right, I've gone too long. I thought I'd cut it short today. My voice is tired. I hope you've enjoyed the topic. These are some prayer points for you, some initiatives for you to pray for. Join with us this coming weekend, not this weekend, but following March 7th through 9th. We're having our Tabernacle Conference. If you're interested, come into Shreveport. Encourage you to go to streamsministries.com. Go on our events page, and then you'll find the Tabernacle Conference in Shreveport, and you can register there. It's their event. We're bringing them in and hosting it, and we really need some registrants to join, because we want to be able to pay all our costs as well as enjoy the liberty of learning how God speaks through all the creative process. Even if you're not, quote, artistic, you're going to enjoy this. It's a great time. Come to be. I know we have some friends from California that are coming. Other people are coming. We're so glad you're with us, and we want you to be a part of that as well. Thank you for covering us in prayer. We were in California last week, so I couldn't be on Monday. But now we're back in the saddle again, and we're looking forward to what God's going to do in the earth today. All right, God bless you. We love you. We'll see you next Monday. Bye.